Welcome to Lamarville Projects. This is episode 1 of hopefully many more to come. I started this project many years ago and it has been a learning experience. I want to share with you what I've learned during my experiences putting this model railroad together, and the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, and also the things that I would do differently. In this episode, I'm going to cover mostly the bench work. I'm going to cover track planning, some of the framework, and also a little bit about the electrical. I built the benchwork out of 1x4 pine and secured it to the wall using a 2x4 ledger that was secured to the stud, so it's a pretty permanent installation. I made sure that all the ledgers were nice and level before I secured it to the wall, of course. And as I put my benchwork up, I also leveled it so as it came out from the wall, it was also nice and level. If I would know then what I know now, I would have built the benchwork a little bit more modular, so it would have been a whole lot easier to take it apart should I ever need to. All this benchwork for this project got me interested in something else, which is woodworking. But that's going to be a discussion for another video, hopefully in the near future. The joinery that I used for about 90% of the benchwork was pocket holes. I bought a Craig's pocket hole joinery and that thing worked out really good. Of course, I had to learn the types of thicknesses of the wood and setting it up, but once it was all set up, it was pretty much a breeze. Now, the one thing that I really needed to do before I even started all the joinery and the benchwork and anything, I needed to figure out, well, how was I going to lay all this out? What my dimensions were going to be? How am I going to set all this up? How are my rails going to run? And with that, I used this program called AnyRail. I'll put a link in the description. AnyRail has a free download that you can use, and of course it's a little limited in some of the functionality. And they do sell you a license, and of course back then it wasn't that much. Lord knows how much it costs now for it, but it did assist in really giving me a lot of detailed information as far as my layout, my tracks, my switches, and it was really helpful and useful when it came time to laying out my tracks. AnyRail was also very effective on the electrical side of things. I was able to break out my layouts into sections, and each of these sections had their own terminal blocks with their own circuit breakers. It helped me run all the main buses, and it also helped me run the electrical requirements such as the 12, 9, and 5 volt DC circuits for either LEDs and other functions of the layout. And to this day, the printed page that you see there is still on my layout, and I still use it to refer to some of the electrical buses, because I'm going to tell you, as you start adding more and more, it gets pretty busy under there, and it's always good to have an electrical plan, so something for you to refer to. The room that I built this HO scale model railroad, it's not very large. It's about 11 feet by 12 feet. So you're kind of limited as to how you want to lay it out. And it gave me a bit of a challenge, but I was able to make everything work with the functionality of a drop-down bridge. And without it, I don't think I would have been able to really make this work. I'm sure there's probably many of you out there that would know how to make this work in such a small room. If in retrospect, I probably should have went with N scale. But since I already had some HO rolling stock, I had a lot of HO track, I had a lot of HO equipment, and to just put all that to the side, to go to N scale, it never even entered my mind going N scale, which probably wouldn't have been a bad idea, and it would have gave me a lot more room and more flexibility. It just never happened. So in retrospect, would I have gone to N scale? I really don't know. I started this project back in May of 2020, which is quite a while ago now. And it's been off and on. Sometimes I work on it for a couple of months and then I'm off for a few months because I'm taking care of other responsibilities and taking care of other things that I need to do. But off and on since 2020, I've been working on this. So a lot of it is completed. But I wanted to share this with everyone because I think that I learned a lot from many of the other modelers on YouTube, and I thought that maybe I share my experiences with others that might be interested in starting out in this hobby. It's a great hobby and I really enjoy it, It kind of brings me some zen when I'm working on it. And I really appreciate the joys and the fruits of my labor when I'm finished with a particular project and I look back and I say, wow, I put all that together. That looks really awesome. And I've made a lot of mistakes, and there's a lot of things that I know that I would probably do different if I was going to build another model railroad, and maybe one of the other rooms if my wife is so nice to let me have, which I know she won't, and I don't blame her. The one thing I think I would do very differently in building another model railroad system was to add some different elevations to my tracks. Now, because it's such a small room, and in trying to keep with that 2% grade, it was almost impossible for me to get from one end of the room to the other without violating that 2% grade. Here you can see where AnyRail really shined. When I designed the railroad set, AnyRail laid out all my tracks, the dimensions, the type of tracks, the distances, the radiuses, and then I was able to print it all up. And boy, did I go through a lot of copy paper. And I used that copy paper to lay it all out on the Benchwork. And man, that sure did make a hell of a difference, because I originally tried to lay out all the tracks without it. And man, that was difficult. And now I'm sure that there's many of you out there that are experienced in this that could probably do that, but I wasn't one of them. And I eventually ended up printing up all these printouts, and I laid it all out, and I was able to move things around and shift things around. And with it, it made my life a whole lot easier. And it really assisted me in putting this all together. Now, at this stage of the game, the Benchwork went relatively easy. It wasn't too difficult. A couple little problems here and there. Nothing very bad, but I pretty much solved it, and I figured it out. And I think that one of the main reasons why I was able to figure this out relatively easy was because there were so many other model railroads on YouTube that I would watch. And I mean, the wealth of knowledge that they provided was just inspirational and making me a better modeler and putting this together. And I got to give a shout out to many of these guys. And a lot of them was like Model Railroad, the DCC guy. The guy really knows his stuff, especially when it comes to the locomotives and the electrical side of it. And Luke Towan was another one. Oh my God, some of the models that this guy puts together is just incredible. Ron's Trains and Things, oh, he has some really good tips, and I really watched a lot of his videos and making trees and the NOACs on protecting your tracks. He really gave me some good insight. And KRP Modelers and Everett Junction from across the pond, the way you say it. He's another one. He built a model railroad up in the attic of his house. And man, that is something to really take a look at. I mean, it's incredible, the skill sets that a lot of these model railroads, and I'm nowhere near that level of experience or skill sets, but maybe one day. Now here, AnyRail shines again, and it's the same printout that I showed you earlier that shows all the buses and the sections and the electrical connections and the bus lines, where everything goes, and it really aided me in setting things up. And I was able to put things in place ahead of time, which made things easier because a lot of these terminal blocks I installed, and a lot of the bus wires I installed before I even put that 1/2-inch particle board up. And it just made it all that easier to work from the top than it is from working down below. But anyway, these terminal blocks were all connected and pre-wired and ready to go. So when it was time to hook up the tracks, all I had to do was just drop down the feeders, which made it a lot easier. Now that's pretty much it for the bench work and some of the electrical, at least the starting there of the electrical. So I'm going to stop the video pretty much here, but I just want to thank you for your time, for spending it with me and sharing my journey through this. I'm going to be putting out more episodes as time goes on. This is my very first video, and this is also a learning experience for me, so I only hope to get better as time goes on. So if you have any suggestions or comments, please leave them below. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and look to seeing you again here in the near future. Take care.